My wedding is tomorrow. But my fiancé, Chloe, sent me a message, don't come looking for me. My phone vibrated. It was a location pin from her best friend, Sarah. Ethan, hurry. If you don't come now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. My heart leaped, and an ominous premonition instantly seized me. I floored the accelerator, and the city lights blurred into streaks in my eyes. The destination of the pin was the estate. I had never heard of Chloe knowing the owner of such a place. A security guard at the gate stopped me, his gaze disdainful. No unauthorized entry. I'm looking for Chloe. Miss Chloe is getting married. Who are you? Married? My mind buzzed, then went blank. Our wedding was supposed to be tomorrow. I pushed past the guard like a madman and rushed inside. Deep within the estate, lights blazed, and music flowed softly. On a sprawling lawn, a long red carpet was laid out, flanked by seated guests, each face beaming with happiness. At the end of the red carpet stood a man, impeccably dressed in a suit, extraordinarily handsome. I knew him. Derek. The one who got away, whom Chloe had kept hidden in her heart, too afraid to even mention. The man who had left her 7 years ago to go abroad, vanishing without a trace. Through the music, I saw my fiancée, Chloe. She wore the wedding dress I had personally chosen for her, the very dress we had agreed to wear tomorrow, pristine as an angel. But the arm she was holding was not mine. She walked step by step toward Derek, her face displaying a happiness I had never seen on her before, a deep, unbridled joy. The surrounding guests erupted in congratulatory applause. This applause felt like countless slaps, harshly striking my face. I felt no pain, only absurdity. I felt like a clown, an utter fool. I walked step by step, treading on the soft lawn, yet it felt like walking on knife edges. No one noticed me. All eyes were on the newlyweds. Until I reached the center of the red carpet, blocking their path. The music stopped. The applause also ceased. Chloe's smile instantly froze, replaced by panic and shock. Ethan? What are you doing here? Derek put an arm around her waist, looking at me provocatively, a triumphant smile playing on his lips. You must be Mr. Ethan, right? My apologies, I forgot to inform you. Chloe and I are getting married today. I stared intensely at Chloe, my heart clenching as if by an invisible hand, making it hard to breathe. Why? My voice was so hoarse it didn't sound like my own. Chloe's gaze darted away, avoiding mine. Ethan, I'm sorry. I realized I still love Derek. Let's just end things between us. End things? Our 3-year relationship, the wedding we were supposed to have tomorrow, the future we had planned together. In her mouth, it was just a dismissive let's end things? A graceful socialite walked over. It was Brenda. Her gaze toward me was filled with disdain and impatience. Ethan, since you've seen everything, I won't hide it from you. Our and Derek are a match made in heaven. You? You could never aspire to her. She took a check from her purse and waved it in front of me. Here's $5 million as compensation. Take the money and leave quietly. Don't make a scene here. $5 million. Did she think this could buy out my feelings, my dignity? The surrounding guests began to whisper, their gazes at me filled with sympathy and mockery. I felt like a prisoner publicly executed. Chloe looked at the check, showing no remorse, but rather a sense of relief. Ethan, just take it. This is the most respect my mom can offer you. Respect? I laughed. Laughed until tears almost came to my eyes. This was the woman I had loved for 3 years, the mother-in-law I had treated with all my heart. In their eyes, I was nothing but trash to be dismissed with $5 million. Derek, with his arm around Chloe, looked down at me. Mr. Ethan, one should know their place. You and Chloe are not from the same world. Take the Oni and start your new life. I looked at their repulsive faces, and the last shred of warmth in my heart was completely frozen. I didn't take the check. I slowly took out my phone. In front of everyone, I made a call. Hello, it's me. A steady male voice came from the other end of the line. Ethan, what's wrong? Tomorrow's your big day, why are you calling at this hour? It was my father, William, the chairman of Vance. I took a deep breath, suppressing the metallic taste in my throat, my voice unusually calm. Dad, call off the wedding. Silence fell on the other end. Brenda sneered, putting on an act. Your dad? Isn't your dad just a retired old worker? Call off the wedding, as if we care. I ignored her and continued speaking into the phone. Also, immediately terminate all cooperation with Hayes, and notify all our partners to completely blacklist the Reed family's businesses. My voice wasn't loud, but on the silent lawn, it carried clearly to everyone's ears. Brenda's smile froze. Derek's face also changed. You. What did you say? I hung up the phone, looking at them coldly. I said, game over. I looked at Derek and said, word by word, Hayes, which you take such pride in, and the $50 billion financing you just secured, it came from my family's company, Vance. And you're about to lose it all. Derek's pupils suddenly constricted, the color instantly draining from his face. Vance? Impossible. Your last name is Chen, and the chairman of Vance also has the last name Chen. Could it be? He looked as if he had realized something terrifying, his body beginning to tremble uncontrollably. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, a cold smile forming. It seems you're not entirely stupid. Brenda also finally reacted. She pointed at me, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. You're actually the heir to Vance? The surrounding guests erupted in an uproar, their gazes shifting from mockery and sympathy to shock and fear. Vance, that was a behemoth that could shake the entire business world with a mere stomp of its foot. And I was the sole heir to this behemoth. To prove my capabilities, to experience what was called ordinary love, I had hidden my identity and started from an entry-level position. I thought I had found true love. Now, it just seemed like a colossal joke. Chloe stared at me blankly, her beautiful face etched with disbelief. Ethan, this isn't real, is it? You're just kidding with me. I looked at her, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Whether I'm kidding or not, you'll soon find out. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, Chloe's shrill scream echoed. Ethan! Stop! You can't do this to me. I didn't look back. Not even once. The moment I stepped out of the estate, my phone began ringing frantically. It was Chloe, her mother, Derek. I didn't answer a single call. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to resist asking her, just once, if she had ever loved me. But I knew the answer no longer mattered. Sarah's car was parked by the road. Seeing me emerge, she immediately rushed over. Ethan, are you okay? Looking at her worried eyes, a flicker of warmth crossed my heart. On this bitterly cold night, she was the only one who cared about me. I'm fine, I shook my head, getting into the passenger seat. Take me home. Returning to our shared apartment, which Chloe and I had decorated together, the abundance of red stung my eyes. A huge wedding photo hung on the wall, we were smiling so sweetly in it. But now, it felt full of irony. I picked up that photo and smashed it violently onto the floor. The sound of shattering glass echoed my equally broken heart. I didn't need these fake things anymore. I took out my phone and began deleting all our photos one by one, blocking all her contact information. After doing all this, I felt a huge void in my heart. Sarah sat silently beside me, handing me a bottle of ice water. Cry if you need to. I shook my head and chugged a large gulp of ice water. The cold liquid sliding down my throat helped clear my muddled mind. Cry? For a woman like that, it wasn't worth it. Thank you, Sarah, I looked at her. If it weren't for you, I'd still be like an idiot, anticipating tomorrow's wedding. Sarah bit her lip, a trace of guilt on her face. I'm sorry, Ethan. I knew she had been in contact with Derek for a while, but I never dared to tell you. I was afraid. Afraid I'd be sad? I gave a self-deprecating laugh. Better a short sharp shock than prolonged pain. This way is fine. At least I saw their true colors. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. From the other end came Brenda's tearful, pleading voice. Ethan. No, Young. Ethan. Young. Ethan. Please, spare our Reed family. We know we were wrong. We truly know we were wrong. I let out a cold laugh. Now you know you were wrong? Too late. Young. Ethan, our Chloe was just confused for a moment. She does care about you. Please give her another chance. A chance? I retorted. When she wore my wedding dress to marry another man, did she give me a chance? When you offered $5 million to humiliate me, did you give me a chance? The crying on the other end grew louder. We failed to recognize your true worth. We were blinded by greed and foolishness. Young. Ethan, if you could just show us mercy, I'll do anything. I'll get on my knees for you. I couldn't be bothered to listen to her hypocritical performance any longer. Tell your daughter, and tell Derek, this is just the beginning. With that, I hung up the phone directly. My revenge would not end so easily. I would make them pay the most agonizing price for their actions. I would make them understand that some people, they couldn't afford to provoke. I would make them kneel before me, repenting everything they had done today. Sarah looked at the cold hatred in my eyes and said with some concern, Ethan, don't destroy yourself for them. I shook my head, my gaze firm. I won't. I'm just going to take back what's mine. Including my dignity. The next day, what should have been my wedding day, I didn't show up at the wedding venue. Instead, a series of legal notices issued by the Vance's legal department were dispatched. The news of Hayes' Capital chain breaking and its declaration of bankruptcy liquidation immediately made the front pages of financial news. The family's company also saw its stock plummet to its limit and was on the brink of collapse, having lost all its partners. The entire city was buzzing about this sudden business upheaval. Meanwhile, I sat in the top floor office of Vance, looking down at the city. On the desk lay a detailed investigative report about Derek. Looking at the contents of the report, a cruel curve formed on my lips. Derek, your good days are over. Derek was no returned elite or entrepreneurial genius. His so-called success was nothing more than a castle in the air built on lies and deception. The report showed that during his studies abroad, he was expelled from school for academic fraud and never received a diploma. After returning to the country, he fabricated his resume and secured his first investment. What he called Hayes was actually a massive Ponzi scheme, constantly relying on new investments to fill old holes. And the reason he came back to Chloe was not because of some lingering old flame. It was because his scam was about to be exposed, and he desperately needed a large sum of money to cover his losses. What he was after was the dowry the dupe, would give the Reed family, and the potential business value behind the Reed family. He had planned it perfectly. Marry, get the money, and then escape to a distant land. Unfortunately, in all his calculations, he failed to account for the fact that I wasn't the ordinary salaried worker he imagined. I was the capital that could decide his fate. I anonymously sent this report to major media outlets. An hour later, news of business Derek.F. massive spread like wildfire. Derek's phone exploded with calls. Curious investors mobbed below the corporate tower, demanding their money back. He became like a rat crossing the street, despised by everyone. At this time, the Reed family was also in utter chaos. Brenda's phone rang again. This time, her voice was filled with despair and fear. Young Ethan, please. We're truly at our wits' end. Derek is a swindler. We were all deceived by him. Chloe is innocent. I listened indifferently. Innocent? If I hadn't exposed all this today, Chloe would probably have already taken my money and eloped with that swindler. How was she innocent? That's your problem, it has nothing to do with me. Young Ethan, Chloe, she's broken ties with that swindler Derek for you. She's downstairs at your place now, please see her. She hasn't eaten all day. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked down. Sure enough, that familiar figure was standing alone downstairs, looking frail and pitiful. That trick again. Playing for sympathy. Too bad, it no longer worked on me. Tell her to get lost. I coldly uttered 3 words and hung up the phone. My assistant knocked and came in, reporting respectfully. Mr. Ethan, Ms. Chloe is downstairs. Security is asking if they should ask her to leave. No need, I waved my hand. Let her stay. Also, turn off the central heating downstairs. It was the depths of winter. I wanted her to experience what it felt like to have her heart frozen. The assistant paused, but immediately nodded. Yes, Mr. Ethan. All afternoon, I handled company documents, as if the person downstairs didn't exist at all. Sarah brought me lunch. She looked at my calm demeanor, hesitating to speak. Just say what's on your mind, I said, eating. Are you really not going to see her? Sarah asked softly. I put down my chopsticks and looked at her. Do you think I should see her? Sarah shook her head. That's not what I mean. I just feel. Seeing her like this, I am also finding it hard. After all, we used to be best friends. Then go down and tell her to leave, I said. Just tell her that Ethan, never want to see her again in this lifetime. Sarah's eyes reddened. Ethan, you've changed. I gave a self-deprecating laugh. Have I? Perhaps. They are the ones who turned me into this. A ruthless, vengeful devil. The sky gradually darkened. Chloe downstairs still hadn't left. She was dressed in thin clothes, shivering in the cold wind, looking like a wilting leaf ready to fall at any moment. I admit, for a split second, my heart softened. But then, the words she had spoken to me at the wedding yesterday, the image of her mother humiliating me with the check, clearly resurfaced in my mind. That shred of pitiful sympathy vanished instantly. I picked up my jacket, ready to leave work. Sarah stopped me. Ethan, where are you going? Are you going down to see her? No, I shook my head. I'm going to see someone more important. I walked around her and directly into the elevator. When the elevator reached the ground floor lobby, I immediately saw Chloe huddled in a corner. Her face was pale with cold, her lips purple. Seeing me emerge, her eyes instantly lit up. She stumbled toward me. Ethan, you finally agreed to see me. She tried to grab my hand, but I sidestepped, avoiding her. My gaze went past her, toward her back. Sarah had also followed, looking at us with concern. I gave Sarah a gentle smile. Been waiting long? Come on, I'll take you to dinner. With that, I walked directly to Sarah, naturally taking her hand. Sarah froze, her cheeks instantly flushing crimson. Chloe also froze. She looked disbelievingly at our clasped hands, all color draining from her face. Ethan. You too. I didn't look at her, only gently told Sarah, what do you want to eat? French or Japanese? Sarah hadn't fully recovered from her shock, she just instinctively shook her head. I led her past Chloe, as if I hadn't seen her at all. Behind you. Chloe's heart-wrenching cries rang out. Ethan, how could you do this to me? How could you be with her? She's my best friend. I didn't stop. Best friend? The moment you betrayed me, betrayed your friendship, she stopped being that. Now, she is the one Ethan, will protect. I took Sarah to a high-end French restaurant. Throughout dinner, Sarah was distracted, hesitating to speak several times. Just say what's on your mind, I said, cutting my steak without looking up. You were doing that on purpose, weren't you? Sarah asked softly. You were using me to spite Chloe. I looked up, meeting her gaze seriously. Half and half. Sarah was taken aback. Half was to spite her, to make her give up completely. I put down my knife and fork, wiping my mouth. The other half, I was serious. Sarah's face instantly turned crimson, like a ripe apple. Ethan, don't joke around. I'm not joking, I interrupted her. Sarah, I know this is sudden. But after this whole ordeal, I've seen many people and many things clearly. I've also realized who truly cares about me. When I was at my most vulnerable and humiliated, you were there for me. Even though you knew Chloe's betrayal might implicate you, you still chose to tell me the truth. I appreciate that more than words can say. Sarah lowered her head, nervously twisting the hem of her clothes. I just did what I thought was right. For me, that's enough. I gazed at her. Sarah, give me a chance, and give yourself a chance, okay? Sarah's eyes moistened. She looked up, her gaze shimmering with tears and a complex emotion I couldn't quite decipher. After a long moment, she softly nodded. Okay. In that moment, I felt that the void in my heart, caused by Chloe, seemed to be filled a little. After dinner, I drove Sarah home. The car was parked downstairs at her place, and neither of us spoke. An ambiguous atmosphere brewed in the confined space. Well then, I'm going up. Sarah unbuckled her seatbelt, preparing to get out. I took her hand. Her hand was cold, trembling slightly. I enveloped her hand in my palm and leaned closer. I gently pressed a kiss on her forehead. Good night. Sarah's face was so red it looked like it was about to drip blood. She pushed open the car door as if fleeing, and ran upstairs. I watched her retreating figure, unable to help but smile. Perhaps, this was what love should truly be like. Simple, pure, without calculation, without betrayal. The next day, I had my assistant release a statement. Vance would inject $100 million into Bright Charity, founded by Miss Sarah, to help unschooled children in underserved rural areas. At the same time, I also announced, in my personal name, that Sarah was my current girlfriend. This news was even more explosive than Hayes' bankruptcy. Everyone knew Sarah was Chloe's best friend. A groom abandoned on the eve of his wedding, then immediately gets together with the bride's best friend, and casually spends $100 million. This plot was more dramatic than a primetime soap opera. I wanted everyone to know that Ethan, was not someone to be trifled with. The princess I held in my palm, you cast aside like trash. Then I would elevate another, making her a queen you could never aspire to. Chloe completely broke down. She once again rushed below Vance, trying to force her way in like a madwoman, but was firmly stopped by security. Ethan, you bastard. Come out. Why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong? She screamed hysterically, attracting countless onlookers. I stood by my office window, coldly watching the farce downstairs. What did you do wrong? Even now, you still don't know where you went wrong. Your mistake was being too selfish, too greedy. You wanted both the so-called romantic love Derek offered and the lavish life I could provide. So you chose concealment, you chose deception, you chose to waver between two men. Your biggest mistake was underestimating my tolerance for betrayal, and overestimating your place in my heart. I picked up the phone and called security. Get that crazy woman out of here. If she comes again, call the police immediately and charge her with harassment. The farce downstairs quickly ended. Chloe was escorted by 2 security guards and taken across the street. She collapsed on the ground, looking at the Vance building, her eyes vacant, filled with despair. And this was just the beginning. The family's businesses, at my instruction, were simultaneously pressed for repayment by several banks. Paul was utterly overwhelmed, begging and pleading with everyone, only to be met with constant setbacks. The business world is a battlefield, no one would risk offending the flourishing Vance for someone destined to fall. In despair, Paul sought out my father. They had met once at a cocktail party and shared a passing acquaintance. He brought Chloe, carrying expensive gifts, and knelt at my father's office door, tearfully recounting his difficulties and Chloe's youthful folly. My father called me. Ethan, the Reed family is here with me. What do you think? Dad, you don't need to worry about this. I'll handle it myself. Okay, my father didn't ask further, only adding, go ahead and do what you need to. Don't worry about a thing, I've got your back. It felt good to have family support. I had my assistant invite them to my office. Having not seen him for a few days, Paul looked as if he had aged 10 years, his hair half white. Chloe also looked worn out and haggard, having lost her former radiance, like a withered flower. Seeing me, Paul immediately dropped to his knees. Young Ethan, please be magnanimous and spare our Reed family this one time. Chloe also knelt, her tears flowing freely. Ethan, I know I was wrong, I truly know I was wrong. Please forgive me, can we start over? I swear I'll never see Derek again. I sat in my executive chair, looking down at them. Start over? I laughed as if I'd heard a colossal joke. Chloe, what makes you think a betrayer has the right to talk about starting over? Chloe was rendered speechless by my question. As for you, I looked at Paul. When your daughter's mother threw a $5 million check in my face and told me to get lost, why didn't you step in to plead for me? Now that the company is about to go bankrupt, you suddenly remember to come beg me? Paul's old face flushed crimson, and he hung his head in shame. It was my fault for failing to raise my daughter properly. I failed to recognize your true worth. Young Ethan, punish me however you wish, just please lead the Reed family a way out. A way out? I sneered. All right. I'll give you two choices. They immediately looked up, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. First, Reed declares bankruptcy, and you disappear from the city. I might then consider not pursuing further. Paul's face instantly turned ashen. The family's business was his life's work, giving it up would be harder than killing him. Then, what's the second option? He asked tremblingly. I looked at Chloe and slowly began. The second option, your daughter gathers all the guests from Derek's wedding. In front of everyone, she admits that she was promiscuous and shameless, and that I, Ethan, dumped her. Then, you both get out of my sight. Chloe's body trembled violently, all color draining from her face. This was more humiliating than killing her. As glorious as she had been in front of those people then, that's how wretched she would be now. I wanted her to personally tear apart her last shred of dignity. You. How could you do this to me? Chloe shrieked. And how did you treat me back then? I countered coldly. Choose. I leaned back in my chair, delivering my ultimatum. I'll give you just 1 day to think about it. Paul collapsed onto the ground, his face ashen. He knew that no matter which choice they made, the Reed family was finished. And, looking at my icy gaze, finally realized that the Ethan who once loved her devotedly was dead. Dead at her ridiculous wedding to Derek. Ultimately, they chose the second option. Compared to losing everything and being forced out of the city, keeping the company, even if it was just a shell, was more important to Paul. And, to preserve her identity as Chloe, the Reed family's eldest daughter, had no choice but to swallow this humiliation. The location was still the lawn of that estate. The guests were still the same guests. However, this time, the expressions on their faces were no longer congratulatory, but rather a playful amusement and mockery, like watching a spectacle. Chloe, dressed in ordinary clothes, stood where she and Derek had exchanged vows, her face utterly drained of color. I, with Sarah, sat at the head table, the spot that should have belonged to the groom's parents. Brenda stood nearby, her face pale with fury, yet she dared not utter a single word. Paul held the microphone, his voice hoarse as he announced the start of the apology session. Chloe took a deep breath, picked up the microphone, her body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Her gaze swept over everyone present, finally settling on me, filled with venom and resentment. Chloe, invited everyone here today to offer my sincere apologies to Ethan, Mr. Ethan. Her voice was very soft, tinged with a sob. I shouldn't have been entangled with another man when I was about to marry him. Louder. Didn't you eat? Someone shouted from the crowd. This immediately sparked a burst of laughter. Chloe's face instantly flushed scarlet, tears of humiliation welling up in her eyes. I raised my wine glass, gently swirling the red wine within, my expression impassive. Sarah, feeling a pang of discomfort, tugged at my sleeve. Ethan, isn't this a bit too much? I set down my glass and turned to look at her. Too much? When they publicly humiliated me with money, did they think it was too much? If I were sitting here today, instead of them, do you think they would have shown me any mercy? Sarah fell silent. She knew what I said was true. Mercy to an enemy is cruelty to oneself. Under her father's stern gaze, Chloe had no choice but to raise her voice and repeat those humiliating words, sentence by agonizing sentence. It was my promiscuous and shameless nature. It was my unworthiness of Mr. Ethan. It was my failure to recognize your true worth, mistaking something common for something precious. I earnestly beg you, Mr. Ethan, to forgive me. With that, her legs gave way, and she knelt on the ground, bowing her head deeply towards me. The entire place fell silent. Everyone was stunned by the scene. Chloe, the darling daughter of the Reed family, the high and mighty Chloe, actually had such a humble and degraded day. Paul and Brenda closed their eyes, unable to bear watching further. I stood up and walked toward her. She looked up, her eyes brimming with tears, a glimmer of hope within them. Ethan. I looked down at her, my gaze as cold as a blade. Chloe, remember today. This is the price of your betrayal. With that, I no longer looked at her, but took Sarah's hand and, under everyone's watchful eyes, turned and left. From today, she and I had no further connection. This farce should now come to a complete end. On the way back, Sarah remained very quiet. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing, she shook her head. It just feels like life is unpredictable. Yes, life is unpredictable, I sighed. That's why we should cherish the people we have in front of us. I squeezed her hand. Sarah's face flushed slightly, but she didn't pull away. Back at the company, my assistant informed me that Derek had been taken away by the police. He was suspected of fraud amounting to billions of dollars, and a long prison sentence awaited him. This news didn't surprise me at all. It was the fate he deserved. I thought that was the end of it. But I didn't expect that a few days later, I would receive an unexpected phone call. It was from Brenda. Her voice was no longer pleading, but filled with hysterical madness. Ethan, you demon. You've ruined our entire family. I won't let you get away with this. I'll take you down with me. I frowned. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Ha ha ha. She laughed wildly. I'll tell you. Chloe is pregnant. It's your child. If you dare not take responsibility, I'll expose this to the media. I'll ruin your reputation. I'll make everyone know you're a heartless man who abandons his wife and child. Pregnant? My child? My mind, once again, buzzed and exploded. I immediately had my assistant investigate. The results quickly came back. Chloe was indeed pregnant, 6 weeks along. Counting back, the timing perfectly coincided with before our breakup. My mind was in turmoil. I hated Chloe, hated her betrayal and deception. But the child was innocent. And it was my flesh and blood. What should I do? Sarah noticed my agitation and dilemma. She poured me a glass of water and sat quietly beside me. Ethan, no matter what decision you make, I'll support you. Looking at her gentle yet firm gaze, the turmoil in my heart seemed to calm down somewhat. I closed my eyes, 2 tiny figures battling furiously in my mind. One said, to hell with it, a child born to a woman like that, impossible. The other said, that's your own flesh and blood, how could you be so heartless? I didn't sleep a wink all night. The next day, with dark circles under my eyes, I made my decision. I called Brenda. Have come see me. We need to talk. The meeting would be in my office. Chloe arrived, still looking haggard, but her eyes now held a glint of defiant triumph. She knew the child was her ultimate trump card. So, what do you want? I cut straight to the chase. Chloe smiled, gently stroking her flat abdomen. It's simple. Marry me. Give me and the child a legitimate place. You've seen the Reed family's situation. Vance needs to inject capital to help us through this CRI. Sis. She actually had the audacity to make such demands. Do you think that's possible? I watched her, my voice cold. Why not? Chloe stood up and walked toward me. Ethan, I know you still love me. You're just angry with me. Now we have a child, this is fate. We're meant to be a family. Besides, she shifted her tone, a hint of menace in her eyes. You wouldn't want everyone to know about you and Sarah, would you? Abandoning your pregnant fiancé and getting involved with her best friend. TSK, TSK. If the heir to Vance has his reputation ruined, those old-timers on the board certainly wouldn't let it slide, would they? I looked at her face, twisted by triumph, and felt nothing but disgust. I must have been blind to ever fall for a woman like her. Chloe, do you really think you've won? Isn't it obvious? Her smile grew wider. The child is in my belly, the power is in my hands. Ethan, stop struggling, just comply, and we can go back to how things used to be. Oh really? I pulled a document from the drawer and tossed it in front of her. Take a look at this, then tell me you've won. Chloe picked up the document, confusion clouding her face. When she saw what it contained, the smile instantly froze on her face, replaced by unadulterated terror. It was a paternity test report. No, to be precise, it was a medical report about my own body. The report clearly stated, diagnosis, azoospermia. Fertility, none. No. Impossible. This must be fake. You're lying to me. Chloe, like a madwoman, tore the report to shreds, screaming hysterically. I watched her with cold indifference. Whether it's true or false, you know deep down. I had learned about this report years ago during a medical checkup. Feeling it was too difficult to disclose, I had never told anyone, including my parents, or even Chloe. I had even believed for a time that I would never have children of my own. So, when Brenda told me Chloe was pregnant, while I was shocked, deep down, I mostly felt a sense of the absurd. Now, watching Chloe collapse, I felt no satisfaction, only a profound sadness. How many times had this woman I loved for 3 years cheated on me? No, it's not. Ethan, let me explain. Chloe collapsed to the floor, sobbing incoherently. That day I drank too much. I didn't know. I really didn't know. Enough. I didn't want to hear another one of her lies. Whose child is this? I asked coldly. Chloe's body trembled violently, her face ashen. She dared not speak. I stood up, walked over to her, squatted down, and gripped her chin, forcing her to look into my eyes. Tell me. Whose it is. My voice sounded as if it came from hell itself. Terrified by the murderous intent in my eyes, Chloe finally broke down. It's Derek's. She choked out, sobbing. It was the night he came back. We slept together. I didn't mean to. I really didn't mean it. Derek again. So, while I was joyfully preparing for our wedding, my fiancé had already slept with the one who got away. And she actually planned to use this illegitimate child to blackmail me, marry me, and make me a cuckolded father? Ha 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 ha. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Laughter that brought tears to my eyes. My life, Ethan, has been nothing but a joke. Chloe trembled with fear at my laughter. Ethan, please don't be like this. I'm scared. I stopped laughing, my gaze becoming eerily calm. A terrifying calm. Get out. Just one word escaped my lips. Ethan, please. Give me another chance. I said get out. I roared, kicking over a nearby chair. Chloe was utterly terrified, scrambling out of my office. Silence descended upon the office once more. I collapsed weakly to the floor, feeling as if all strength had been drained from my body. Sarah pushed open the door and, seeing me in such disarray, embraced me tenderly. It's all over, Ethan, it's all over. I buried my face in her embrace, like a lost child finally finding a safe harbor. After a long mom. And, I lifted my head and looked at her. Sarah, let's get married. Sarah froze. Now? Yes, right now. My gaze was resolute. I don't want to wait another minute. I didn't want to be entangled by the past any longer. I only wanted to grasp the happiness right in front of me. Sarah looked at me, her eyes shimmering with tears, and nodded firmly. Okay. Sarah and I got our marriage license. There was no grand ceremony, no hall full of guests. Just the two of us, and a red marriage license. But in my heart, I felt an unprecedented sense of security and contentment. I posted a photo of our marriage license on my social media feed. The caption read, "To the rest of my life, with you, Mrs. Ethan." It caused quite a stir. My phone was instantly bombarded with messages and calls. Some were congratulatory, others shocked, some utterly incredulous. I ignored them all. I turned off my phone, wanting only to enjoy this moment of peace with my new wife. However, trouble was far from over. The family, once again, caused problems. Chloe, clutching the medical report she had torn up and taped back together, found my parents. She cried, claiming I had deceived her, that I was infertile, and had deliberately used it as an excuse to call off the wedding, even slandering her by saying the child she carried wasn't mine. She begged my parents to mediate for her. Although my parents knew about my hidden identity, they were completely unaware of my infertility. The elderly couple were profoundly shaken. My father immediately called me, his tone unprecedentedly stern. "You come home right now." When I arrived home, the atmosphere in the living room was so heavy it felt as if it could freeze. My parents sat on the main sofa, their faces ashen with fury. Chloe and Brenda sat opposite them, weeping and wailing, looking as if they had suffered an unimaginable injustice. "Dad, Mom," I said, pulling Sarah with me. My mother paused when she saw Sarah, then glanced at the marriage license. Essie in my hand, her expression darkening even further. "Ethan," my father asked, his voice low and grave, pointing to the report on the table, "tell us the truth, is this report genuine?" "It's genuine," I replied calmly. My mother swayed, almost fainting. "Then why?" My father pointed at Chloe. "Why did you call off the wedding with Chloe? And move on so quickly with another girl?" Brenda immediately seized the opportunity. "Uncle and Auntie, you see. He's guilty. He's just trying to shirk responsibility because he can't have children. Ours truly ill-fated." I watched their performance, twisting the truth, with cold eyes. "Dad, Mom, do you really believe I called off the wedding for that reason?" My parents fell silent. They knew their son. While I sometimes liked to fool around, I was always serious about important matters. "Then why, exactly?" my mother asked, her eyes red-rimmed. I didn't answer, turning my gaze to Chloe instead. "Chloe, are you sure you want me to reveal everything in front of my parents?" A flicker of panic crossed Chloe's eyes, but she still stiffened her neck defiantly. What I said is all true. You're the one who wronged me." "Fine." I nodded. I took out my phone and played a video. The video showed that absurd secret wedding. It was Chloe, in a wedding dress, walking happily towards Derek. It showed her mother presenting a $5 million check, telling me to get lost, her face a picture of ugliness. It was the scene of me being publicly humiliated, like a clown. A profound silence fell over the living room. My parents' expressions shifted from furious to outright enraged. Chloe and Brenda, on the other hand, turned ashen. This is. My mother pointed at the video, too furious to speak. "That's the truth," I said coldly, turning off the video. "This is what Chloe, whom you consider ill-fated, did the day before I was supposed to marry her. Now, do you still believe I wronged her?" My father slammed his hand on the tablet and stood up abruptly. "Outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous." He pointed at Chloe and Brenda, trembling with rage. "Where did the Chen family ever wrong you? How dare you disgrace and humiliate my son like this?" Brenda was too terrified to utter a single word, only trembling. Chloe, completely deflated, slumped onto the sofa, her eyes vacant, knowing her last glimmer of hope was gone. "Get them out of here," my father roared. "The family will never welcome people like you." The butler immediately stepped forward with several bodyguards and escorted the distraught mother and daughter out. The living room finally quieted down. My mother took my hand, tears streaming down her face. "Son, you've been wronged. I'm so sorry, I almost misunderstood you." I shook my head, comforting her in turn. "Mom, it's all over now." I then pulled Sarah closer and told them, "Dad, Mom, this is Sarah, my wife. From now on, she's your daughter-in-law." My parents looked at the quiet and gentle Sarah, and remembering that she was the only one who stood by me during my most difficult time, their expressions finally softened. My mother took Sarah's hand, her approval growing with every glance. "Good girl, we're family now." The family drama had finally passed, not without its scares, but ultimately safely resolved. As for the Reed family, their fate was sealed after completely offending the Chen family. Reed soon declared bankruptcy. Paul couldn't handle the shock, suffered a stroke and was hospitalized. Brenda, to cover medical expenses, sold off all their assets, transforming from a socialite into an ordinary woman. As for Chloe, she aborted the child that wasn't mine. Later, I heard she found an ordinary job, struggling daily to make ends meet, never regaining her former splendor. Once, Sarah and I were at the shopping mall and ran into her. She was wearing a cheap work uniform, distributing flyers. Seeing and me walking intimately together, she instinctively lowered her head, using the flyer to cover her face, and hastily hid herself in the crowd. I watched her retreating back, feeling not a single ripple in my heart. Pitiable? Perhaps. But all of this was her own doing. I held Sarah's hand and continued walking forward. Sunlight streamed through the shopping mall's glass atrium, warm upon us. My new life had begun. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments, so feel free to share your opinions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.